Most people at one time or another have come up with something and are usually convinced it was the next big thing. Even today, with unlimited resources at our fingertips through internet, social networking, being able to contact people all the way across the world instantly. Welcome, come on in. Some of the reasons why people don't want to try their ideas is because they don't know where to start, they don't have the money they think they need, or they don't have anyone to help. Just remember, if you want to try your ideas, there's always a way to make it happen. Don't give up. Ever since I was little, I've been doing crafts, making gadgets, and coming up with all sorts of ideas. I've been making money, but I like making money, but I'm also good at saving it too. That's also important. When I was 5 years old, I set up my first lemonade stand one summer during a neighborhood garage sale. That was amazing, and I did really well. And then I set up again the next year, and I added homemade cookies. Then I thought, okay, so I have 2 products. I was successful last year, I should even do better. But another kid copied my idea and set up a juice and candy stand, and his house is in a better location in our little neighborhood. So he ended up getting more business than I did, and that was my first experience at competition, and I was only 6 years old. Then after I turned 8, I tried a hot chocolate stand right before Christmas, and that same year I also started a neighborhood recycling business. Recycling is easy for anybody to do. Other than sorting out the bottles and cans and rinsing out some of the leftover liquid, it's really easy and it's basically free money. And it helps the environment, and I still recycle today. Then, at 9 years old, I created pencil bugs. And it's not like I had some long-term master plan that I was going to do all of these things and then I get here today. It was just one thing after another, and it kind of proves that if you keep your eyes open, you might be surprised at what can happen. Anything can happen, because just one thing leads to another, and amazing things happen. Here's how it all began. My mom was painting some wooden door stoppers to sell at a craft fair, and I had a brilliant idea, or at least I thought I was. I thought that if I helped my mom paint them, that she'd give me part of the money. I thought that was the perfect idea. It was easy for me to do. I just painted some stuff and I get free money. But she actually said no and said that I had to come up with my own idea. So I didn't stop there. I went and started drawing out some designs on paper, and I finally came up with the idea of pencil bugs. Now I know that a pencil topper isn't very unique, and there are a lot of pencil toppers out there, so I tried to make it as creative and unique as possible. And you may think that the heads or the balls were painted, and we got them painted, but we have to paint all of those by hand. The pencil bugs are 100% handmade, which makes it, but it sets it apart from all of the other pencil toppers out there. So with $10 of my own money, I bought the supplies I needed to make 2 dozen for the craft fair. We shipped them to my grandma, who was in North Dakota, and that's where the craft fair was, and they sold out really quickly. I sold all 24. And my grandma sent me the proceeds, and I didn't give it too much thought after that. Just a little side note, if I would have helped my mom, she only sold like maybe 1 or 2 of her door stoppers. So I did much better that day. Then during Christmas vacation, I made a few more to show kids at school. Kids always wanted to see what was going on, what other kids were doing, so I showed them the little product, and I was just using it on my pencil and gave it to some of my friends. I wasn't planning on selling it or doing anything else with it. But before long, kids saw it, wanted to know where I got it, and then started ordering, and I was going home and making them and bringing them back the next day. And even at that point, I didn't think it was going to be a business. I just thought, okay, cool, I'm getting some extra money. And when I was selling them, people saw that I was successful, and they wanted to try their own ideas, and there were a lot of other businesses started. And remember, I was in 4th grade, so there were a bunch of kids doing businesses at school, so that was cool. And some kids even wanted to help me with my business. But I had to turn them down, since it's very hard to make with all of the small parts and different types of glue I had to use. And plus, I was pretty particular about the quality, because they're not easy to make, even though they look like that, which I'll go into later. Then one day, I got an offer that really surprised me. Let me stop here for a minute. By a show of hands, how many of you think that $100 is a lot of money? I think $100 is a lot of money, yeah. Now, imagine this. Remember, I was in 4th grade. A kid came up to me on the playground, reached into his pocket, and pulled out 2 $50 bills, $100. And he offered to buy my business. So I had no clue what to say. I was not at all prepared for this. So I had to think about his offer for a minute. And then I turned him down, because I knew if I kept at it, I'd probably make And I'm glad I did, otherwise he might be here standing and talking to you guys now. Shortly after that, my mom helped me get a business license and sales tax ID. I designed my business cards and logo, and Mom set up my website and PayPal account. We also created the documents for accounting and keeping all of the business legal things organized. Since we're talking about accounting and money, you're probably wondering what I do with it. I use whatever is necessary for the business expenses. I don't spend it on my stuff. That's what I use the recycling money for. And I donate a portion of my proceeds to Rady Children's Hospital in San Diego. The rest is invested in stocks, mutual funds, or saved in my college fund. Once you know how hard it is to actually earn the money yourself instead of getting an allowance or just being given money, then you're not as likely to spend it on things that you're going to get bored of a couple days later. And I have spent a lot of money on useless things in my time, which hasn't been that long. But I do understand how hard it is to make the money yourself, and that's why I don't spend a lot of my money. Donating has always been important to me. And for 2 years now, I've bought toys, games, books, and other gifts for kids at Rady Children's Hospital. I also have an annual Christmas fundraiser. I can't talk today. Fundraiser since 2008. In 2009, I raised over $5,000 to buy 1,800 teddy bears for the kids at Rady. That was really cool. We tied a donation tag on every single one of the bears. People from all over the world sent in donations. Now you may think that this is a staged photo, but really there were bears on every single spot that we could sit on in the house. It was just all over the chairs, the flooring, the tables, everywhere. It was amazing. And we had to get a big truck to deliver them all. That truck was just full of bears. Last Christmas, unfortunately, we weren't able to raise as much money as the previous year, but we still were able to buy 500 bears for the kids. Even the smallest thing can make a big difference in someone else's life. People always ask me how I've marketed my products. And, sorry, I had to worry about the PowerPoint. And the first thing I can say is that I've never had a marketing budget, and I still don't. And I've learned that you can do a lot without money. You just need to be more creative. Once I had the business set up legally, I needed to get more people to know about me and pencil bugs, but I didn't have the money or wanted to spend the money on advertising. So what we did is we contacted the local Albertsons and Walmarts in Temecula and Murrieta and asked if we could sell outside their store on weekends. It was good that I already had a business license because that was one of their requirements. When they found out I was donating to help kids, they were really supportive. So for the first 2 years, we set up sidewalk sales outside of stores on many, many weekends. It was one of the cheapest ways to advertise, market, and sell products, but it wasn't always fun or easy. After all, I was only 10, and there were lots of times I wanted to be home playing or doing anything else. But it was good, and there were a lot of good lessons that I learned from doing that. And the good thing was, my mom and dad always gave me the option to stop my business altogether, so it wasn't like I had to do this. We contacted the local newspapers and radio stations. Having articles about pencil bugs was a great form of free advertising. I also started giving presentations at schools, libraries, and community organizations. Now by the third year, I didn't have to do sidewalk sales anymore. I was really excited about that. I was getting lots of media attention, including some big national coverage, so people were ordering directly from my website. When I was 11, I was the youngest person to win the Young Entrepreneur of the Year award. There's actually a funny story behind that, because the contest was for 16 and older, but I entered anyway. I explained there are a lot of kids under 16 who are doing great things and have businesses. And they agreed and understood what I said, and they were so impressed that they made a whole new category for under 16, and I was the first person to receive that award. So sometimes it kind of pays to break the rules. Because of that recognition, Forbes found me and named me on their first top 10 list of role models 18 and under. I was only 12 at the time. I heard of Forbes, but I didn't really realize what a big business magazine it was. It was a real honor to be on there because I was on the list with people you might consider celebrities, like Olympic gold medalists and kid prodigies, and there was some names like Miley Cyrus and Nick Jonas and Shawn Johnson and people that you might think of as celebrities, and then there's me. So that was a really big honor to be able to be featured there. And I've also been on TV several times, including an episode of PBS Biz Kids and a new series called The Young Icons. Now, once one media finds you, it seems to snowball. My story has been featured in several books, including Chicken Soup for the Soul, Extraordinary Teens, and The Richest Kids in America. And there are even a couple of textbooks that have featured me, and some on other parts of the world teaching English to other people. So it's really cool. And The Richest Kids in America was written by the co-author of the Chicken Soup for the Soul books, Mark Victor Hansen. And it was really cool because I got to speak on stage with him, and I got to meet Art Linkletter, and that was an amazing experience. So all of those things from the business together, Bob would have never been able to do anywhere else. And the ironic thing about the Richest Kids in America book is not just about rich and money. There's a lot of other ways to be rich, as I found, than just having a lot of money. And me, nor a lot of the kids in the book, don't have $1 million, but some do. So one of the examples is a girl we met from the book, who I became friends with, is Chelsea Eubank. Her story is sad, but is really inspiring. The year she was 17, 5 of her close family members died, including her dad. And although she had been going to church before that, those tragedies brought her even closer to her religion, and from that she started her own Christian clothing line called Faithful Fish. There are many other kids featured in the book who have inspiring stories, but not all are tragic. I feel very fortunate that I've always been healthy and have not had to experience anything like that. I don't really believe you need to have a big tragedy in your life to make you appreciate your life and what you can do for others. You don't have to go through something bad to make something good out of your life. One of the things I'm most thankful for are my parents. My mom and dad are in the front row there. They both help me with different parts of my business. My mom takes care of the day-to-day things while I'm in school, and so balancing school and business responsibilities hasn't been as hard as some people may think, because my mom and dad are very, very helpful. She taught me how to do all of the accounting, including the banking and PayPal transactions. I can also make changes to my website and do all other parts of my business if necessary. So it's a big learning experience. And my dad advises me on the financial decisions because his background is in sales. And since I've always gone to a regular school, my parents don't want me to get overloaded. So school comes first, and I have homework just like any other kid. And then I do the business work, and I still have time for playing, because no matter how old you are, it's always good to have time to have fun. And you don't want to forget that, especially kids. They'll be driven crazy if they can't play. Most kids have more than one product. It was about 4 months after I first created pencil bugs that I added laminated bookmarks. And last year I designed greeting cards with the pencil bug characters for all occasions. I also have a cafe press store online where people can order t-shirts, mouse pads, coffee mugs, and even things for your pet with my character or logos on them. Since I started my business, I received a lot of emails from people asking my advice. About 2 years ago, I started sharing my advice and tips on Twitter and also created a blog. I've been just doing little things that I thought of and I thought were good advice that other people might like. And then one day someone suggested that I write a book. And that kind of caught me off guard, because even though I had a lot of stories already written, I wasn't at all thinking about doing a book. Neither was I thinking about doing the business altogether. So I thought, what the heck, I'll do it. And then once I decided to put the book together, it wasn't like I had to sit down and start writing from scratch, since I already had a lot of the stories. Even so, it took almost 2 years from having the idea to getting the published book in my hands. The book is called Bitten by the Business Bug, and is best described by the subtitle, which is Common Sense Tips for Business and Life from a Teen Entrepreneur, me. And how many times has someone said to you, where's your common sense? And it doesn't matter how old you are, everyone has times when they could use more common sense. And it doesn't matter like what area of life you're in, common sense is common. And some people think that common sense can't be learned, and if that were true, people would be making the same mistakes over and over and over again for the rest of their lives. My book is filled with personal stories and business experiences and all sorts of different things, and also to my life in general. Even though I've only lived 15 years, I admit I don't always use the best common sense in every situation. Being a kid, sometimes we need to mess up while we're trying to grow up, so it's always a learning process no matter how old you are. But I'm lucky that I have people in my life like my parents and grandparents that have a lot of common sense and have taught me valuable life lessons. The funny thing is, the information in my book isn't brain surgery. It's really just common sense tips that maybe we all sometimes forget. And kids have a way of simplifying things, and that's what I try to do in the book. It's good for all ages, and we can use reminders now and then. And with the quality of self-publishing getting better and better, which is how I did it, more and more people are writing and publishing their own books. If you decide to do that, make sure you make it as professional as possible. Feel free to talk to my mom afterward about publishing, because she helped me with my book, and and she's good with that kind of stuff. Although writing and getting a book printed is actually the easier part, there's a lot more than just putting the words on paper and gluing the cover around it. Marketing, promoting, and selling it is the hard part to be a full-time job. Even so, balancing the daily business responsibilities is fairly easy. What becomes a challenge and a little more effort is traveling and speaking at events. I have to plan ahead, get homework done, take makeup tests. But public speaking, traveling, and meeting people is probably the best part about having a business. In fact, since my book came out, I've been able to do a lot more of that. Last year, I was a guest speaker at a conference at USD in San Diego, another one at the California Homeschool Network, and the biggest one was at a TEDx conference held at Microsoft headquarters in Redmond, Washington. That was so cool because it was organized by kids, for kids, with the theme, Power to the Students. Now, TED is an organization that has they're one main event, and they have speakers on all sorts of different topics. And TED's motto is ideas worth spreading. Now, the little X after it is an independently organized TED event. So anybody can host them anywhere in the world. There are some being hosted by schools, the one I was just for kids, and they were really strict about the just for kids thing. The big auditorium, you had to be under 18 to enter. To be on stage, you had to be under 18. If an adult wanted to watch the kids, they had to go in a different room and watch us over a live video feed. So it was strictly by kids, for kids. It was completely run and organized by kids. So TED stands for Technology, Entertainment, and Design. And you can go to TED.com, and they have amazing speakers on all sorts of different things. And when people think of seminars or speaking and giving that kind of information, you think of it as like a boring talk. But these people are amazing at doing what they do, because this is what they do for a living, and you can find almost anything on anything you want to know. I titled my TED Talk, Take Off Those Blinders, but the conference labeled it Goals versus Plans. You can watch a short video on my website or YouTube channel, because this is a good idea for all ages. Well, there are reasons for horses wearing blinders. People should not. One thing I've learned since starting my business is that if you don't get too stuck on one goal and you're open to possibilities, things may turn out better than you expected. So while it's good to have a plan, you really need to be open and be willing to change directions if necessary. Opportunities can happen when you least expect them. So for any of you who are in business, it's important to recognize when it's time to make a change. Recently, I had to make an important business decision. About 2 years ago, my plan was to take my product part of the business to the next level and get pencil books into retail stores. Although I wanted to expand in quantity, I wasn't willing to sacrifice the quality of them. We had been working with manufacturers for over 2 years to mass produce the pencil bugs, and they all had the same idea. As you saw earlier, probably a lot of you thought they looked super simple to make, and that's what all of the companies thought. And even though they were going to still be handmade, they still thought the same idea. To their surprise, none of them could make it to the quality we wanted or the price we needed, because they look simple, but they were a lot harder to make than people think. And some companies weren't even willing to work with small initial quantities, and I wasn't willing to sacrifice all of the money I'd made up to this point on a risk of maybe being able to get a bunch of pencil bugs that I wouldn't know what to do with. So after months and months of weighing out all of the options, I had to make a tough decision. Pencil bugs were going extinct. We posted a story on my website to let people know there was a limited supply left, and that I would keep a small amount in protected captivity, at least for the time being. And there's a story on my website if you want to read more details. And even though they will eventually be unavailable, I still enjoy public speaking and carrying on the pencil bug legacy and reminding people of what they once were. And I will still be working on other book ideas and continue to have my annual Rady Children's Hospital fundraiser. So you can always help out with that. And I've had a lot of great opportunities, and I've learned many things since starting my business. And I want to just share some of the most important ones with you now. You can always read more in my book if you're interested. Things to remember. Number one. Try your ideas, because doing nothing guarantees nothing. If you just sit there and hope that somebody will just give you a bunch of stuff, that's probably not going to happen. So you might be surprised at what you can accomplish. Age is not a factor. Just try your ideas and do something, and amazing things can happen. And number two, start out small. You don't need a lot of money to try your ideas. In fact, sometimes the simplest ideas can turn into something great. And don't limit your opportunities to get too stuck on one idea. That was the main point of my TED Talk, make sure you're open and don't get too stuck on something, otherwise you might forget something right next to you. And then remember to give back to the community or help somebody else along the way. Every little bit can make a big difference in somebody else's life. The point is, you just never know where an idea might come from. If you keep your eyes open, the best opportunities might pop up right beside you. And then take advantage of those opportunities and see what you can do. You might surprise yourself. Thank you for your time. I can answer any questions you have now, and I'll also have some of my pencil bugs, and I will be autographing books. And if anyone is interested, you can see me afterward, and I will have those. If anyone wants more information after I leave, visit pencilbugs.com.